Ever feel like you're stuck on that hamster wheel of wanting to make a change? Like really wanting it,
Yeah.
but then life gets in the way, you know?
Oh, absolutely. It's like you're raring to go all gung-ho for self-improvement, but then that initial push kind of fizzles out.
Exactly. And then we beat ourselves up for not magically becoming morning workout gurus overnight.
It's tough because there's this whole culture of transform your life now, which is kind of like what this deep dive is all about, actually.
Right. Like maybe there's a different way, and that's why we're diving into change your life one tiny step at a time.
You got it. It's not just another self-help book promising you the moon. It actually digs into how our brains build habits. Like, for real.
See, that's what caught my eye, the whole brain science angle.
Yeah.
Because motivation and willpower, those are great and all, but what about the actual wiring up there?
And that's where things get really interesting. It uses this metaphor of a jungle to explain how our brains work.
A jungle. Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more.
So instead of picturing these overnight transformations, gradually carving new paths through a dense forest.
Hold on. So you're saying those deeply ingrained habits, those are like well-worn paths in this brain jungle.
Exactly. And just like in a real jungle, creating a whole new path takes time and consistent effort. You can't just bulldoze your way through.
That makes so much sense. So instead of trying to overhaul everything at once, it's about those tiny steps.
You nailed it. It's about understanding that our brains aren't wired for massive overnight change. And that's okay.
That is so reassuring to hear
Yeah.
because that pressure to change everything instantly can be totally paralyzing.
Right. It breaks down this whole process of habit formation into like this internal struggle we all experience.
Okay, spill the tea. What's the internal struggle all about?
Well, they call it the wise planner versus the impulsive toddler. And let me tell you, those two are constantly battling it out in my brain.
Wait, impulsive toddler. Okay, you have to tell me more about this because that sounds suspiciously familiar.
Okay.
Okay, wise planner, impulsive toddler. I gotta know more about this brain drama. Who are these characters and which one's calling the shots in my head?
Right. So picture your wise planner. That's like your super organized friend, the one with color-coded calendars and like a 5-year plan for everything.
Okay, I know the type.
Right. So in your brain, that's your prefrontal cortex, the
Yeah.
part that's all about making decisions, thinking long-term, all that jazz.
Makes sense. So that's the part that's like, new year, new me. I'm gonna be a morning person.
Exactly. And
And
then,
then.
well, then you've got the impulsive toddler running around throwing Cheerios everywhere.
Oh, no, please tell me this isn't the part of me that buys those giant tubs of cookie dough from the grocery store, even though I know I'll eat it all in one sitting.
You're not alone. Think of the impulsive toddler as the part of your brain that's all about instant gratification, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain.
So basically the opposite of planning ahead.
Pretty much.
Mhm.
But here's the thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Part of our brain is wired for efficiency.
Efficiency? How so?
Well, think about it. Habits, even ones we want to change, they're often our brain's way of conserving energy.
So it's like my brain's on autopilot, just trying to get through the day.
Exactly. And this is where that jungle metaphor comes in handy again.
Mhm.
Imagine your brain is this dense jungle, right? Every time you repeat a thought or action, you're basically carving a path through that jungle.
Okay, I'm with you.
The more you walk that path, the more established it becomes, and eventually it's like this super highway in your brain. That's your habit in action.
So how do we convince our inner impulsive toddler to ditch the old superhighways and start carving new, better ones? Because some days even getting off the couch feels like an Olympic sport.
Well, that's the beauty of this whole tiny steps approach.
Yeah.
The key is to not try and bulldoze a whole new jungle overnight,
Right, small changes.
Yes, we start small, like ridiculously small. We
Mhm.
find one tiny, ridiculously doable action that moves us towards our goal, and we just make it a consistent part of our routine.
Give me an example. What does a tiny step actually look like?
So the book uses the example of wanting to exercise more, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people go, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, which can feel overwhelming.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So instead of that, a tiny step could be as simple as doing 5 push-ups every morning before you brush your teeth.
5 push-ups, okay, that even I can handle.
Uh,
But how does something so small actually create lasting change? I mean, my impulsive toddler is still going to want those cookies.
It's all about consistency. Remember the jungle metaphor. Every time you do those 5 push-ups, you're carving a new tiny path. It might not seem like much at first, but with repetition, that path becomes more defined.
So it's like we're outsmarting our inner impulsive toddler by making these new actions so small they eventually become as automatic as our old habits. This is brilliant. But what about the motivation factor? How do we keep that impulsive toddler engaged long enough for those tiny steps to actually become superhighways?
See, that's what I always struggle with staying motivated. Like 5 push-ups, no problem, most days. But what about those days when even thinking about those 5 push-ups feels impossible?
I hear you. It's like willpower can only take you so far, right?
Exactly. So what's the secret? How do we make those tiny steps feel less like a chore and more like something we actually want to do?
What about this really cool thing? Our brain's reward system.
Okay, reward system. Tell me more.
So our brains are wired to find familiar actions rewarding. Like when we do something pleasurable, our brains release these feel-good chemicals like dopamine.
I've heard of that. So it's like our brains are giving us a little high five every time we do something we enjoy. Exactly. And the key here is to tap into that. Instead of fighting against our impulsive toddler, we can actually work with it.
Okay, I like where this is going. How do we do that? Work with the impulsive toddler.
So think about what your inner impulsive toddler loves. What does it gravitate towards?
Instant gratification. Easy wins. Am I close?
Bingo. So instead of trying to resist that, we use it to our advantage. Let's say you love listening to a particular podcast.
Okay, I'm listening.
You could make a rule that you only get to listen to that podcast while you're doing those 5 push-ups. Suddenly, your brain starts associating those push-ups with something enjoyable, and bam, it becomes a reward, not a chore.
So it's like tricking my brain into wanting to do the good thing by linking it to something I already enjoy. That's kind of brilliant. But let's be real. Life happens. We get busy, we get stressed. What happens when we miss a day or 2 or 5? Do we just throw in the towel?
It's so important to remember. Setbacks are part of the process. That it's okay to stumble. The key is to not let those slip-ups derail us completely.
So it's all about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Remember the jungle. Even if the path gets a little overgrown, it's much easier to clear it again than it was to carve it in the first place.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. Instead of trying to become superhuman overnight, it's about those small, consistent actions that add up over time.
Couldn't agree more. It's not about willpower. It's about working with our brains, not against them.
Love that. So, as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's one tiny step you're personally committing to? Something you're going to start doing, knowing it could lead to something amazing down the line.
You know what? I'm going to try that podcast and push-ups combo myself. It's time to shake up my morning routine. What about you?
I love that. And for me, I think I'm finally going to tackle my fear of cooking and try one new recipe each week.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Remember, the key here is to start small, be consistent, and most importantly, find a way to enjoy the process. Who knows? Maybe by sharing our tiny steps, we can inspire someone else to start carving their own path towards positive change.
I love that thought. So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Remember, tiny steps lead to big change. Until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep believing in your own potential.